Call meeting to order. Public comment? See none, move on. Planning and zoning office report.
Okay, on your report for you, we had 4 permits for the month of January. 3 were residential, 1 was that additional wind tower check that came in for January, so that was for that. So, kind of a slow month, but there was building inspections were still fairly substantial with the towers, and building permits that were issued in the fall. We had 4 complaints, floodplain requests, normal. We didn't have zoning board of appeals in January, but we do have one scheduled now for February 24th for a Scott and Janelle Schroeder purchased a 17-acre parcel that's zoned A1, and they want to rezone 2.27 acres of it to rural homestead to build a single-family dwelling. It's zoned A2. The majority of the property is in a floodplain, but they did already have an elevation certificate done, and it's basically that 2.2 acres is out of the floodplain. It's high, the elevation high enough to build a house. I think they do farm it when they can, but it's slow ground and it does flood out, so the crop, I don't know if their dad's doing the soil on it. They'll be ready for the zoning board of appeals. So in claims, you have your electrical inspections and your construction inspections. Basically all I have with that. John had asked me for the old from the wind tower ordinance. The old wind tower ordinance, we were supposed to get yearly maintenance reports, and I informed you, the committee, that we sent a letter out to Eon for both of their wind tower farms. They responded immediately with the letter, with their maintenance reports. You see them there. It's the front and back, the maintenance reports on the back of each one for each wind tower. So, looks like a friendly reminder will do the trick. Lisa did so far. So we'll just, me and Deb will make a mental note to send out a request right at the end of the year, so we get a maintenance report each year.
Are they supposed to keep a copy of their liability policy with us?
I would say, yes, we did ask for their renewal date. Did that come with that? I don't think it's that here on this letter.
It says here in the letter that they renew the policy in January. So if you don't see the policy or that, you don't really know what it covers or anything else. I thought they were required to keep a copy on file here somewhere, in Jim Devine or in his own office someplace like that.
We'll be checking into it for more. I mean, if they're renewing in January, then they just renewed it, so.
Right. I mean, it seemed to me that they should send us a copy of it. I thought they were required to do that.
So, that's all I really had for my report. Nobody responded to the web page for the plumbing inspector. Huck did say before he left for Florida for his yearly vacation that they're not in any big hurry, or they may not even ever move now. And if we didn't find anybody, he'd be willing to go get a certification and continue. So, if nobody responds, we don't hear from anybody that wants it, and that's really course of action I'm going to take in the short term, because to get, he's got the years of experience, he's doing his continuing ed, so as he just gets a certification, then he'll be able to take that off.
Do you know if somebody's interested in it? Or do he's currently the Watsika inspector? I don't know if he could do both the county too. He's got all his certifications, he was an inspector, and he's got his years in too. State day, he talked to me last night. He doesn't know what he wants to do yet, but he thought about approaching, so I don't know.
I haven't heard from him, so.
Yeah,
And that's fine, I mean, Dave's a lot younger, and.
well, I don't know if he'll take it, I'm just saying that could be another possibility.
Okay.
There's no reason they can't use the both, the county on it.
I wouldn't see why not.
I don't think there's a problem.
It's tough being older, it'd be good to have a backup or somebody anyway.
Right. So, that's all I have.
Moving on to discussion of division of wind tower ordinance, changing the setbacks from building to property line with possible action to be taken. This is, Adam, you were here last night, I don't think?
I read it.
You get, this is the suggestion. I think it sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah, it's just basically changing for the non-participating from setback to be, instead of being from the primary structures, changing it to be from the property line. Which if you look at it, anybody that has substantial tract of land, their building isn't going to be exactly in the center of that thing. It's going to be at one end. That means the setback could prohibit them from doing something at the other end of their property. So if the setback is measured from their property line, it gives the non-participating an opportunity to utilize the full property. That's basically what this is intended to do. And I think, as I look at some of the ordinances in other counties that are being updated, that seems to be where everybody's going to put their setbacks from property lines.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that, but I think, I thought the way I understood it was, the power company cannot put one in, but if you wanted to build a tool shed closer, I thought you could. So it wouldn't really prohibit someone, say you own a piece of property next to a wind tower, you didn't have anything on there, and you say, I want to build a tool shed 10 years later, it wouldn't prohibit you from building it. I'm just saying that.
Well, one of the reasons I thought that the wind companies didn't want that is because depending on the height of that structure, it can interfere with the air currents. They would claim it interfere with the air currents.
So if you build a giant wall that's 500 feet, in theory you could do that. If you wanted to. For instance, if you wanted to put another wind tower up, because this happened in Indiana quite a bit. I know it has nothing to do with us, but they block each other on purpose. The company don't know their setup. But what I'm saying is, I think as a non-participating landowner, you could do what you want with that piece of ground. As long as it conforms with all of our other ordinances and stuff like that.
And another aspect of this would be, if you were not participating and you wanted to subdivide part of your land, this would prevent you from doing that as well.
The intent of this was the language currently as written.
Yeah, I understand.
It actually references both primary structure and property line, which is very confusing, and it can be interpreted either way.
No, I'm for this. I was just saying,
and this is prior to, so like you said, any property owner can put a tool shed within, right on, as long as it meets the setback on that property line, if he wants to take the risk with the tower being there.
Yeah.
That's nothing you can do, you can't stop that long as it meets the setback.
There's another issue with the ordinance that was called to my attention a couple of weeks ago by one of the fellows that lives in my district. He has a piece of property that's adjacent to on an adjacent piece of property to his, has a tower on it. And what they did when they put their access road in is that they put the access road right on the property line. And came out to where the tower was, I guess, and then they went over that way instead of coming this way. So his problem is that apparently by putting that access road right on the property line, you know, he has some drainage problems now that he didn't have before. And I don't know, I think there was some attempt to remedy it, but apparently it wasn't real successful. But his question is there a setback requirement or a distance that these access roads have to be from a property line? I can't seem to find anything in not only in the wind ordinance, but even in the county general ordinance, like for driveways and things of that sort. I don't think we have.
There's not.
There's nowhere for anything that says where a driveway has to be located.
Didn't we go through that with Highlandville? Access road, Jim?
There is no set where they have to put it. There's certain roads they have to come off of, but there's no set.
And actually, we had a property owner of the land that was mad because they actually put the access road off the property line rather than on.
Right. They put it too far in, and he didn't like that, but we don't have any.
We have yours.
That was on his property?
Yeah.
Well, he should negotiate that with the wind company.
Yeah, we told him, and he thought we could rent it, you know.
Finally, put the shortest distance to the tower.
Well, you would think they would do that, but in this case, apparently, maybe the property owner wanted the road put on the property line so that it would be less interference in his farming, I don't know. But in any case, this fellow's complaining because he's got some drainage problems caused by this thing on his side of the land. And I told him I didn't know, I just talked about it. I just thought since we're talking about the wind ordinance, it's something to consider, but I can't find anything anywhere that covers it, so.
Maybe we shouldn't add something like that, but we could go in there and add a paragraph or something along the line. And it might even be in there now, I don't remember it off the top of my head. Not obstructing the natural flow of water. Open up a can of worms.
Well, I can't complain technically.
I mean, I've had some complaints in Oaks Grove from people up there that have had the same situation where the tower company luckily listened to them and didn't put the road there, but they wanted to put the road right through a slough. It would have held all the water back.
Well, it happened in Sheldon. I mean, it's bad. It still is bad. They raised the roads up 12 inches, at least 6 inches. 6 inches on the grade, pretty flat, is everything. And there's water standing where no water is standing in probably 1,000 years, you know. And so it did affect quite a bit in Shell, especially if we get a big rain. Yeah, the surface water doesn't run off the way it used to. It really does affect it a lot. You know, especially if like you said, if you're on a property line, and if you're on the downstream side of another field there, that other guy that owns that piece of property, he's gonna have water stand because the other guy's driveway.
Same thing can happen anywhere if you have two homes adjacent to one another. One guy wants to put his driveway right on the property line. That could be any number of reasons why that could cause problems for his neighbor. But we don't have anything to...
Yeah, getting in pretty deep, you start talking about houses, driveways and stuff like that.
Well, we have setbacks for buildings. I don't know, if a driveway would follow along that same line or not. I'm not necessarily advocating it, I'm just saying I could see problems or things that, come up because
There's always going to be a problem with something. Well, I mean, and also, you got guys putting a driveway in for just throwing one in real fast. Having an ordinance for it, you almost have to have a permit, in a way, You already have it approved.
I've seen houses side by side in subdivisions where the property owner decided to build both driveways adjacent to one another. I mean, there was nothing between them.
Yeah.
And then I've seen them the other way, you know, so.
And you get, I've had discussions with property, new construction went in next to their house. Their house has been there quite a while, and new construction, and the neighbor put in a walkout basement to the lake, and they built a little, the flood, the floor, the main living floor, a little higher, and they graded it away for the house, which is the proper thing to do, but all the runoff goes right to the neighbor, and there's really, and they built it to code, they built it, and I don't know, there's no real remedy, except try to, possibly pay, if you get the neighbor, the one that built the house, to agree to help pay for maybe adding some grade to the older house, and then kind of build a tile, system to run it out to the lake. But then you get into a property dispute on who's going to pay for it, and usually that doesn't end well.
Well, it sounds like this case is something like that, so I'll just tell them there's nothing we can do right now.
Well,
The only thing what you're suggesting is to add a setback to the access road, but then you're, I don't know, then you're infringing on, I mean, that's what you're asking, I mean, that's what you're suggesting. What that is, what that would be, don't know.
And basically his problem, I mean, it really is something if, even if there was no wind farm there at all, if that farmer next to him built a shed back there and run his road up to the shed, that would be the same difficulty, same problem, so. Okay. Back to this.
You want, I mean, you guys, Dan, you talked to him about it?
About this?
Yeah, as far as going through the process.
Yeah, he suggested we go through zoning board of appeals, kind of like I discussed, just to cover everything, cover all the bases.
Is it time to put that on the meeting in February? No? Okay, and we can get it on for
You
March.
double check. No, because they only publish the legals now Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, and so that doesn't give us our 15 days to the 24th.
Okay.
And if we push it to the next week, you could have problems getting it typed. We haven't done one for a long time like that. We've just been presetting it on that last Tuesday.
Let's schedule one for March.
Do you have a motion to adopt this change?
I'll so move.
Motion made by John, is there a second? Second by Ernie. Do we, forgot to ask, do we have to do is this a roll call or just a roll call?
Adam Zumwalt?
yes.
Ernest Curtis?
Yes.
John Scher?
Yes.
Dan Raymond?
Next is continued discussion on dilapidated properties. It's on the agenda, in case anybody has anything else they wanted to add. Didn't make the finance meeting, I'm not sure why, but it'll have to go on there for next month, I suppose.
Was that Terry Ivan's report?
Yes.
My problem is, do we own that land? Well, why do we want to go on, I mean, I'm for cleaning the county up, but why do we want to go there and tear your house down and help you with your property?
Well, we
Right.
would
I
be
agree.
taking possession of the property.
It's just,
Put a lien on it, you mean?
Yeah, right.
well,
Some way to go about it.
you could, if it's, just like villages do, if you deem it a liability and a hazard, and there's no recourse, there's no, can't find the property, or they're gone, whatever, then you can technically, you can condemn a property and take possession through the court system, which is quicker, but then you have to, at the expense of cleaning it up. And that's, I think that's the purpose. But then there's got to be funds available to do that, and there is no budgeted funds at this point, and that was the reason for the Senate to finance for, obviously, next budget year, which is, so when it gets to finance, that could be this summer, or you could just suggest, have a discussion about it.
I mean, I for cleaning it all up and stuff, but,
Yeah.
what you're saying, Terry mentioned there was one like 6,000 tear it down, so you tear it down, then can't you put a lien on that property? I mean, you may never get the money, but.
No, you wouldn't do that, because I wouldn't spend that, personally, I wouldn't spend any money on a property unless you're gonna get possession. As a government entity. I mean, the cities don't, like all the flood stuff that got abandoned and left, when the city had funds, they went through the court system, got title of property, and then tore the property down and then turned it into green space. And they maintained possession and got exempt status to the government, and then nobody will ever build on it again. Most recently, Village of Anarga, the old Mullins building,
Yeah.
they went through the court system, they got all the taxing bodies to sign off on tax forfeiture to get rid of the tax lien. They had a prospective buyer, they got a title through the court system, and they had a buyer who bought it with the condition that they have to clean it up within so many years. So there's different ways, to do it, but just to go in and tear something down and then have the people who, the prior owners still own it, I don't think that's what you want to do.
Well, there's also another issue, like especially with this one in Del Rey, if we went in there and tore it down and cleaned it up, then we'd have to continue to maintain it because it's just gonna grow
And also,
back up again.
and also what's eventually gonna happen is if for the county could get title through the trustee, through tax sale. And then typically then we try to sell those properties. But that property in Del Rey, if we got a tax deed on that and got possession, there'd be no way that we'd be able to sell it in its current condition because nobody's gonna, what it's worth is less than what it would cost to tear it down. So what you get is somebody saying, well, you tear it down, then I'll buy the land.
Yeah, we'd have to look at it to do that in hopes that somebody did buy it and build on it, that we get tax revenue on it.
Right, and then also, that case at Del Rey too, if we get it by tax deed and we don't clean it up, and then somebody gets hurt or burns and causes a big problem for somebody else, then the county absorbs liability because they have title to the property. So you have to have, if you're going to, you need some kind of funding to take care of that. It's very rare that happens because typically, the majority of the properties that we get by tax sale, we can't ever get rid of are just vacant lots.
What you're feeling, John, we should just ignore it, rather than, do anything. Rather than open up.
I wouldn't say ignore it, you have to be aware of the properties out there that could cause a hazard, or that eventually the county could get title to. What's going on now is not a solution, because Mindy's not even putting them properties on a tax sale no more, because the tax buyers aren't doing their due diligence. They're buying in a tax sale, then they go out and look at them after the fact, and then they want a sale in there, and we have to refund them their money. That doesn't solve it, and then so then Mindy pulls them off the tax sale, then they don't go to tax sale at all, so then that stops the process entirely of anybody getting title to it. And the tax sale process is a 3 to 4 year process to start with. So if you don't put it on the tax sale, then you actually delay it another year. And so my suggestion on stuff like that is we need, for me on the assessment side, I can reduce the assessment so the tax liability is not really very high. Because, for that interest, and then put them on the tax sale, but if there's a way to tell the tax buyer, don't buy it, please, let the trustee buy these. And then we get title to them, and we go and clean them up and get them sold. But without funding to clean them up, then that process is irrelevant anyway, because you don't want to do that, because you don't have the extra funds to do it. Finance committee and the full board can decide we don't want any part of it, and just let it ride out. I don't know.
I said it in the last meeting, I'm gonna say it again now, I object to it, just because I think we've got a lot more things to spend our money on. Next year's gonna be pretty tight in the budget, it's only gonna get worse.
But is this,
So,
bring me up today, is this gonna be an ordinance change? Is that what they want, or is?
Well, they want money to
Yeah,
get
they want to tear
Oh, they just want the money.
and I guess permission too to go in and tear down these.
And what determines what's a dilapidated property?
yeah, it was never really stated.
I know, but I understand this one, I've seen this one, I think, but, yeah, I've seen this one before.
But this has probably been going on for years, right?
Sure, yeah.
It'll always go on.
But I'm saying, if you got an old corn crib that's in the middle of, on the edge of the field, that's not hurting anybody necessarily, is that dilapidated?
Yeah.
An old, say an old corn crib you're not using,
No, I don't think, I think you're talking more along the lines of abandoned properties or.
like completely walk away.
Yeah.
Typically, an old corn crib on the edges is not having, there's no tax value assessed to it anyway, so there's no tax dollars contributing to it. These are
making-
actual properties that have assessments on them, that nobody's paying the taxes on. Actually, those,
The one in
this
Ashland,
one, they're paying taxes on that.
and the one in Ashland had taxes paid, correct? We had one that we looked at, I think
The one with the brick home?
yeah, the brick house.
The brown,
Yeah.
that has the taxes paid on it.
I thought I remember
That's the
discussing
one
last
there.
month about it being paid.
Isn't that the one there?
Eliminator that owned it.
Yeah, Terry did that with a deed.
That's the one in Ashcombe right there.
Yeah, I went by that property and that, at one time, it was a beautiful house.
Have you seen any complaints?
I think though, Dan, I think you have an issue where it depends entirely on how you view the county's responsibility and position as far as how it administers the properties in the county. In a sense, with our zoning regulations and so forth, we're setting guidelines, rules, and procedures for people that live on properties. And we're collecting taxes from that. It's like running a business. And so when we have ones that don't get, that are neglected, where is our responsibility there?
I understand that, but I'm sure, Tyler, you have any input in this again? I mean, my main concern is how tight the budget's gonna be in 2, 3, 4 years. And do we have the $20,000, do we have $20,000 that we can line item for this? I don't think we do.
No, we won't know until budget time, but there's nothing, I don't necessarily think it's a bad idea to
I don't either.
put a, not gonna put $20,000 at the first year, but it's time to set up a line item in there with a couple thousand. But if we can manage, put 3, 4, 5,000 in it for a couple of years, then you have something in there that we can look at and maybe address the property at a time. It's not gonna be something that's gonna happen overnight, obviously.
No.
I'm not gonna throw 50 grand in a line item. We're gonna put a couple grand if we can. If we can't, then we can. But it's gonna be a budget time for this.
Well, then you look at it, I remember discussing it last month with Terry, but that property in Ashland was a good example of $15,000-$20,000 to just demolish it. So it takes years to save up money to get to that point, and what's it worth on a sale? A few $1,000s probably?
3 or 4 acres, so you're looking at
But then another thing is, if you live a mile from it, would you like to look at that every day?
No, I wouldn't, I understand the concept of this, but
Maybe one way to administer it, and I may be all wet with this, but maybe one way to administer it as far as the money and all those kinds of things concerned would be to put it under the health department, because I think they can get to $20,000 in their budget. And their levy can go up. That levy is not, it's independent of what the county's budget is.
But you're not going to get title to that property because their taxes are being paid.
being paying taxes, but I'm just using that as an example of cost.
And the only way to, would be a
Well,
question
there has to be some...
question for Jim, you would have to determine that it's some kind of a hazard to the safety and welfare.
Do you have any input, Adam?
Well, I just think you're going down a slippery slope. I don't like the idea. Yeah, I mean, I understand that people might not like the look of it, but if you really don't like it, buy it. If you can't buy it, then it's not for the county to stick its nose in my opinion.
I think the costs are going to far outweigh.
And the only scenario that I see that to have funding sitting there would be in a situation that the county got title to it through the tax sale, through the trustee. Then it's ours, and it's our job to get rid of it. And if we can't get rid of it because that piece of crap is sitting there, then what do we do? I mean, that's the only time, that's really the only scenario that I see to have it. But
There's a worse scenario that could happen. Say somehow we get title and they find buried fuel tanks or something like that, and the ground's contaminated with fuel. It could cost $100,000 to clean it. And then the county has to do it. The EPA gets wind of it. There's no, okay, we're going to back away from this. It's not like a building where you just leave it up. Once they find it, I'm pretty sure it's got to be dealt with. I just think it's,
Good point, I don't think that's...
Has the county ever done anything like that before?
I mean, we get title to properties all the time, trustee.
Then you
but-
can,
No, he tries to get rid of them as is, just not, and, the trustee wants to make that money too. Usually, he sells as many as he can, before the auction, then it goes to auction, and then people come in and start buying parcels for $400 or $500, and that's it. And typically, the people who buy those kind of properties are the adjacent property. Or it's just vacant land. Majority of it is just vacant land already.
I mean, I have, right now where we live, there's going to be a house that's been vacant all summer, and I don't think anybody's going to ever move back in it, and it's just going to go down the hill. It's owned by somebody that's not from the area.
Is that the one that they were from Chicago?
Yeah,
Who've had problems with that ever since they died?
yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And,
There was 2 names on it.
yeah, and she's in a nursing home now. I don't know if she's still alive, and the boy is not there in the head. And so nobody lives there, and it's just going to eventually fall in on itself. But, and that's the, I mean,
And then,
that's
and
the way it works.
there's a property right on 24, in Crescent, on the south side. It's been vacant for, probably 15 years. Bad shape, it's not worth anything, but the taxes are always paid. The family, you can contact the family, they respond, and the village is just, I think they just stay away from doing anything about it, because they're going to be paid.
Well, and that's, what I'm saying is, I don't like to look at it, but it's reality of what we have to deal with. I mean, maybe they'll get a chance to buy it, or the landowner that farms the ground around will get a chance to buy it and tear it down. But it's really, in my opinion, it's not the county's business. Unless it was a health, I see it more of a health issue if someone was still living in the house and they're violating health code or something like that, then that's different, but as...
I agree. I don't know, well, there's nothing we can really do. make sure we get it on the agenda. I'll talk to Kevin, get it on for next month for finance, and they can throw it around a little bit. They can entertain the idea, because if they don't want to entertain the idea, it dies right there. So, just to keep the meeting moving, I think we'll move along. Move on to the subdivision ordinance revision. So everybody's got a copy. It's mostly, seems like mostly language changes. Everybody have a copy of the subdivision ordinance? Or at least reviewed it?
I can't remember if we talked about it or not, but I thought that one thing we ought to do before we finalize it is to have Joel Moore take a look at it.
Yeah, we can do that.
There's a number of things in here that have to do with roads and so forth. You know, if there's been any changes in the state regulations or else.
Is there any discussion on it? The motion to adopt the changes pending approval by Jim Devine and Joe Moore. Moved by John Schroeder, seconded by Adam.
And this is pending approval by Jim and Joel.
Yeah, just for the language in it.
They're not only approving the changes were made, but they're gonna look at the ordinance, especially Joel, to see if there's anything else in the ordinance that needs to be changed to what we're changing.
Call the roll.
Ernest Curtis?
Yes.
John Schroeder?
Yes?
Adam Seymour?
Yes.
Dan Reynolds?
Yes. Moving on to review the claims. Everybody had a chance to look at the claims. There's motion to approve the claims. It was moved by Adam Zumwalt. Is there a second? Seconded by Ernie Curtis. Call the roll.
John Schroeder?
Yes.
Adam Seymour?
Yes.
Ernest Curtis?
Yes.
Dan Reynolds?
Yes. Any other old business? Under old business, is there any updates on Pilot Hill? Anything change? Quiet. Okay. Any new business? Motion to adjourn? Moved by Adam Zumwalt, seconded by Ernest Curtis. All in favor?
Yep.
Opposed, same sign.
The weather's kind of slowing down. I was up there last weekend and driving around, and there's hardly any construction going on the coast side yet.
Yeah, I've been up there looking around.
There's 42 that need to go up on the airport side.
They bid it all for summer work. The stuff is supposed to be done in like December. And so the company that bid it is screwed because they're having to move dirt just to keep, they got a borrow pit, they're coming in, they can keep that unfrozen, so they'll come and take dirt from that and fill in the holes again, and take the dirt that's frozen on top and take it back to the borrow pit, because it's in big chunks, you know, and put it back to the borrow pit. It's just a disaster, it's costing them.